Hello, I'm Robert Ellsberg, publisher of Orbis Books, and very excited to be joined today by Dr. Ansel Augustine, who's the author of a new Orbis book called Leveling the Praying Field. Can the Church We Love Us Back? It's a small book. It's a powerful book. It's got a very strong introduction by Father Brian Mazengale, whom I think is a great prophetic Black Catholic theologian in America. It's got an afterword by Bishop Sherry, from the auxiliary bishop of New Orleans, who's one of just a handful of African-American bishops in the Catholic Church in America. And Dr. Augustine has been engaged in youth ministry and working with young adults for 20 years in ministry. He's returned now as director of the Office of Black Catholic Ministries in New Orleans. And I must say, maybe we'll get to this, but your hometown, New Orleans, plays a very important role in this book. It's sort of the whole context, the music,
Yeah.
and the history, and the culture, even the food
Yes.
is all in there. But let's start by talking about the title of this book and what you mean by that, and what it refers to, leveling the praying field.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, and thank y'all for believing in me to even write a book and approaching me. So I'm grateful to Orbis and the Marino family for reaching out and connecting with me. When we look at the title, leveling the praying field, and a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion, which is the term now, for advancing the cause of anti-racism work. They talk about leveling the playing field, meaning, how do we create opportunities of equality from different people of different racial, ethnic backgrounds, gender backgrounds. They call that leveling the playing field because we're all playing at different spots and places and not really getting the same equitable resources or chances and opportunities. So too, unfortunately, is in the church. We say racism is America's original sin, as the USCCB defines it. And so too in the church, we as Black Catholics in particular, but other Catholics as well of different backgrounds and genders, sometimes don't get the same opportunities as our white brothers and sisters in the Catholic Church. And so sometimes our culture is seen as second-class Catholicism. We're not treated as equally as holy as other expressions of Catholicism. So this book, in the title, Leveling the Praying Field, talks about how do we create an equal base so we see each one another as made in the image and likeness of God, and thus deserving of that respect, even if we worship, speak, look, eat, or whatever differently than the norm of what's upheld as holy and normative in our Catholic Church. And then at the end, can the church we love us back, comes from my presentation at the Convocation of Catholic Leaders when I did my talk of ministering to the peripheries, the plenary session I was on the panel for. And at the end, I said, well, can the church we love as Black Catholics love us back? And that's all we're asking. We're not asking for, cathedrals or this, that, and the other, or starting our own faith. We're just saying, can we be treated just as much as equal as other people in the church?
Well, Father Mazengale, in his introduction, talks about this, core problem in America of normative whiteness, the idea that America is a white space, and people of other colors are somehow invaders or trespassers, don't belong here. And that carries over into the Catholic Church as well, this concept that it's a Eurocentric, white kind of space, and expressions of African American culture, witness, music, whatever, somehow don't really belong or don't have something to offer. To say a little bit about how you explore that or develop that.
Yeah, in the book, I give examples of my role in ministry in various spaces and places post Katrina. Pre Katrina here in New Orleans, it was there were different challenges there, but especially as I went on a national stage when I started working in the Archdiocese of New Orleans in the youth ministry office in 2007, after we rebuilt my home parish of St. Peter Claver following Hurricane Katrina. And I started seeing on a national level a lot of the discrepancies that were going on in regards to authentically welcoming authentic expressions of Black Catholicism, especially in the youth ministry circles. When I would go to national events or national meetings, many times because of the reality of who was working in diocesan offices. I was many times the only person of any color at the table, and trying to advocate for as programs were being built, national resources were being put together. I like, this doesn't speak to my people, and or other people, as a matter of fact, other than the middle to upper class white Catholic mindset that many of the publishers, many of the diocesan directors were coming from when they put local, diocesan, or national programming together. So I was sometimes that thorn in the side, and even at times blackballed, or treated as I wasn't, welcome at the table, because they thought all Ansel does is complain or talk about this racial stuff, when I'm doing it to be at the table out of love. I love the church enough, and I know it can happen, and I've seen the impact it has on my youth and my young people, especially in my community, if we do it the way that relates to them, to bring them forward, But a lot of people see that as a threat or a challenge because they're not used to it, or not really Catholic because that's not how they were taught. And so it's that challenge that we have to build those bridges.
Well, a lot of your work obviously is with young people, youth. You've been doing this for a long time, so the youth that you worked with 20 years ago are not even so young anymore. And how do you see the change over time in terms of how young people relate to the church or feel that they have a place there?
Well, it's funny you say that. I was in a wedding for one of my former eighth grade students on this past weekend. I felt old, but it depends, Robert. It's twofold, because I've seen some that have remained in the church, but have bought into the system of because they want the privilege or the power that the white way is the right way. So they've fallen into that mindset. Especially those that may have gone on to become clergy themselves. The system that they're now a part of. Unfortunately, it's a challenge. But many and most have just said the church isn't for me. In the moments of silence during racial unrest, or contradictory statements that go against the thought of their own unique understanding of what it means to be Black in America. Almost seeing anytime that people speak out against societal norms, that they're being anti-holy, or troublemakers, when, as a matter of fact, what was Jesus, when he was on this earth, and he walked in a way to uplift those that were excluded or left at the margins, as Pope Francis says. And so I see a lot of, and sometimes I'm that bridge builder. 1 minute I'm getting complaints about people not acting in the right way. These are from my different groups of kids that are young people that I raised, that are now grown and young adults. I get complaints about people not acting the right way and supporting the church. And then I get people about the church not supporting them, so it's that interesting dichotomy as I've seen my young people grow in the camps, I guess, for lack of better words, that they're falling in.
One of the real pioneers and prophets in the church was Sister Thea Bowman. And you cite, that famous speech she gave before the bishops, where she says, what do I bring to, my whole Black self? And all of that means, it means a history, it means a culture, it means, different experience. And that not just something to be respected, but something that is also a gift that can enrich the church. That's a kind of a theme, I think, that runs through this as well. Not just to show respect for Black lives or something like that, but the church is not really Catholic unless it has space and for all these gifts that everyone brings.
Amen. And I think as we continue to talk, is just remembering and reminding ourselves that the word Catholic is universal, and are we truly living that out as we could be in a space that is so diverse as the United States specifically, and what are those other gifts that we don't even see at the table? Would we recognize Jesus if he was walking amongst us right now? Maybe he is, and we're rejecting him because of just this one solid mold of what's going on and what needs to be. So how do we continue to uplift and empower those voices that need to be there? And even when the purpose of the book, I know I got approached like years ago, and then it was during that time period of of George Floyd. At the time, I was working for the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. under Cardinal Gregory. And then the murder happened. And I realized as I was being asked to put together these resources for national Catholic organizations on either an anti-racism statement or a anti-racism resource list kind of thing, I was like, there's really nothing for youth, campus, Catholic ministers, theology teachers to talk about racism with their young people from a Catholic perspective. And so that was the motivation to write this book. And I was in DC, I had no family there and I had nothing to do. I was during the pandemic, so I had time to put this together and put those thoughts together during that time period. But what I've seen from the book, people of all ages and demographics appreciate what's in the content of this book, because it challenges us to look at ourselves, but from a faith perspective, for us to talk about the issues that are there and how can we truly be, as I said before, one body of Christ.
Well, I know you've had a lot of opportunities to speak to all different kinds of audiences. You were speaking to Youth Day at LA Congress. You've had a lot of interviews. I know you've spoken both to predominantly Black audiences and probably predominantly white audiences. Mm-hmm. And I expect that there are different reactions, and I expect you're looking for different reactions. Mm-hmm. What would you like Black readers to take away from this book? What would you like white readers to take away from it?
I think for my community, the Black Catholic or Black just community in general, is just a sense of affirmation, especially those that may be fighting to remain in the church, and it's funny. I just had a conversation with a Black deacon the other day who's been in ministry for 40 plus years, but is struggling to remain Catholic, with some of the stuff that's happened over the past few years. But just having that conversation, like, read this, hopefully this gives you some hope, because this is the person I would go to get hope when I was tired. And if he's out, what do I do? And, a lot of our elders and young people that are questioning, maybe this will give them some vocabulary and language about what they're feeling and the frustrations they have, and that, there's those conversations that happen. For the white readers, I pray for those that are trying to strive for justice as a resource for them. But those that may not understand, because ideally, if they're picking up the book, they want to learn more or try to understand more, is the prayer, is that this gives them a better understanding and another framework and lens to see the Catholic Church from other eyes and other perspectives. Because many people don't understand, and I get this all the time since I was younger, why is there a Black Catholic this? Why Black and Catholic? Why is there an office of Black Catholics? Why this? And not understanding the unique needs of our community, the unique challenges of our community, and the unique ways of connecting with our community. And sometimes other diocesan offices or other people of other faith, cultural backgrounds don't get it. And hopefully this is a resource to help them understand in better ways. At the end, like I said, I think it's chapter 7, talks about how to be better allies in this struggle of trying to be one body of Christ and fight this original sin of racism.
You share a lot of your own story in the book, and one of the stories that really struck me was when you were exploring possibly becoming a priest, and you were meeting with a vocations director from a religious community, and you saw that the meeting didn't seem to be going very well, and he said, and you asked what's the matter, and he said, you just don't have the look of a priest to me. And I think that, I wonder if that has something to do, I'm looking at the icon of Kelly Lattimore, over your shoulder there, that came out of the George Floyd moment that you described. If we don't see, if we can't see Jesus as Black, it's hard to see priest as Black, So right. It's important to kind of just even those symbols like that have something to do with what our concept of of what the holy or the sacred or ministry looks like.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. Like I said before, if holiness, and this is some of the things I had deep conversations I have with some of my friends that work at the USCCB. If holiness is only upheld in one version, how are we truly representative of the whole church? They've wanted me in the past to bring my youth and young adults to USCCB sponsored events, but when they come, they don't see themselves, and it's just another affirmation that, or not affirmation, but another feeling of we don't belong here, in the church. with different things that are portrayed or upheld, or images that are sung, ways certain songs are sung, just different things that are there. And I think that is the challenge for us. And especially like, now I won't go into detail because I still have connections with the religious orders that were there. They're friends, and that's why I connected with them. And unfortunately, this one in particular, this second religious order that I talk about, the vocation director had no idea who I was, but had his own internal prejudice. And he was a person of color himself, but he wasn't Black or African American. But it was just defeating. And like I said, I was already away, uh, away. What's the word, evacuated, because of Hurricane Katrina in another space. And so all those things, I'm like, all right, God, I'm in the desert. Is this what you want me to do? And evidently that was the message I got. And it just hurt, more than anything. So, and I'm here telling my story. I know of other African Americans, specifically men, that have gone through that and much worse, trying to just live out this yes that they feel that they want to give to the church and God. So yeah, that's just one of them. Yeah.
You mentioned Hurricane Katrina. That's just one of the reference points to, as I said, to your hometown there, New Orleans, that is plays such an important role, I think, in the story, in the particular kind of culture. What can you say a little bit about the the Black Catholic history and tradition in your city? I know talk all day about that.
Yeah, New Orleans is a Black city. They say it's the most African city in the United States. And it's funny when you think about us locals that are in here and active in the culture of the community. We don't think of ourselves sometimes as part of America. We think of ourselves as probably the northernmost point of the Caribbean. So when you look at how New Orleans used to operate pre-Katrina, and even in some ways now, that's the mindset we have. Excuse me. And pre-Katrina, and it's also a Catholic city. So the Black and the Catholics go one in hand. Even though you have other religious traditions all through the city, they understand and, for the most part, respect the Catholic Church. And many times I'm in between both worlds, trying to help and be that bridge, especially as my role as the director of the Office of Black Catholics. But before Katrina, there was even a more sense of that identity. We still have Xavier University of Louisiana, the only Catholic HBCU in the country. We have the headquarters of the Knights and Ladies of Peter Claver, which is in my neighborhood, Treme. Treme is the oldest Black neighborhood, which is right around the corner from my church, St. Peter Claver. So people, when I tell them, meet me at Peter Claver, they sometimes end up at the Knights and Ladies headquarters, which is around the corner. I said, no, the parish around, and they don't, it is what it is. We have 3 Black Catholic high schools that are still in existence. St. Augustine High School, St. Catherine Drexel Prep High School, which used to be Xavier Prep, but founded by Mother St. Catherine Drexel, along with Xavier, and St. Mary's Academy, which is run by the Sister Holy Family, of which I'm a member. I'm not a nun, but these are the ladies that had a hand in raising me. And their foundress, Venerable Mother Henriette DeLille, is one of our 6 African Americans on the road to canonization in the church. So that history has been tight and connected for so long. Unfortunately, one of the challenges after Hurricane Katrina was the closing and merging of several of our Black Catholic parishes, which we still have about 23 to 26. But the identity is still a challenge because Katrina, because of rapid gentrification in post-Katrina, neighborhoods, we can't afford to live in them, thus challenging the identity of the neighborhood, the churches, even still now, the bankruptcy, that we're dealing with in the Archdiocese, it's those challenges that are there that affect the Black Catholic community. But we are still strong. We are still here. We are still present. And, that's the work, like you said, we have Bishop Cherie here, one of the 5 active African-American bishops in the country, doing the best he can, from a Black mindset to help us be who we are and called to be, to make a difference in the community. But it is a challenge, especially post-Katrina.
Well, you've been at this a long time, and you've dealt with a lot of challenges. Are there things that are signs of hope for you?
Well, I think the signs of hope are the young people. I think the signs of hope for me are the times that I see the community that has left for whatever reason try to come back and re-engage, whether it's complaining or even just being active in ministry some way, somehow. Because if you don't care, you're just gone. So just having those dialogues and having those tense moments, that are there, even some of the response, of the book in various spaces and places, that this conversation is still relevant. And it's not about me, but the experiences that I have represent experiences of so many other African American males that try to do the right thing in the church and sometimes get beat down because, our presence and our authenticity sometimes is a challenge and a threat at times, rather than some people, as you said, as Sister Thea Bowman said, seeing it as a gift. So, like I said, the hope comes sometimes when I hear people saying, this made me realize I wasn't crazy, or this made me realize that, I should keep fighting, or from our white brothers and sisters, this gave us some more resources on how we can better ally with those people in our areas as well.
Mhm. Well, thank you very much. I think anybody listening to this gets a sense of the passion and the energy and the experience and the wisdom that you bring to this topic. And I urge everyone to rush out, read this book, Leveling the Praying Field. Can the church we love us back? Thank you very much, Dr. Augustine.
Thank you, Robert.